2026 is going to be an awesome year. We got some pretty cool stuff coming up. First off, we got Foundations of Recovery. This is our flagship program. We're starting it in January.
This is for anyone, man, woman, or couple who wants to come and reclaim their heart from shame, trauma, and betrayal. We start off with an education on all sorts of principles, give you the common language. We feed you from a fire hose in terms of all things recovery.
It is such a great start to recovery. And we get at the roots of things, Tyler. This isn't like any other program. Like, this is our healing journey in process, and Foundations is where we begin.
If you look at the value that you're getting there to kick off a good recovery with all of the right education, all of the right language, and a team to get you started while also being directed by Brannon and myself through the whole process, what a deal.
So if you're interested, if you're struggling, if you've been wanting to do something for a long time, jump into this. This only comes around every so often, and we would love to have you there.
Click the link in the description to sign up for it. And to make it even sweeter, we're also including a raffle for a free pass to the Radiant Dawn retreat. Anyone who signs up for Foundations will be added to the raffle for that free Radiant Dawn pass. If you're a man and you sign up for Foundations, your name still gets entered, and you can give that pass away if you win it to any woman that you want to.
So what you're saying, Tyler, is if you sign up and participate in Foundations, you could possibly go to Radiant Dawn for free?
That's exactly what I'm saying, which is crazy because Foundations by itself is already an insane value.
Man, I sound so salesy. But it actually is awesome. So come to Foundations. And even if you don't come to Foundations, sign up for Radiant Dawn. It's beyond therapy, the best healing experiences that you can have.
Click the link below and come join us.
My trauma is causing problems with connection. What can I do about it? Welcome to the Real Talk Recovery Podcast with the Therapy Brothers.
We're brothers, we're therapists, and we know recovery.
Bring your stories, your questions, your successes with real recovery.
Okay, Tyler, this is going to be a good question. Like we say every week, but I really like talking about trauma and yeah. Anyways, before we get into that, I have a review I want to share here. It's been a little while since we shared a review. So the title is Proof My Husband Is Not Trustworthy. The guest caller, Allie, was a voice to my story. I too would play out the same cycle of feeling the disconnection and then go searching for the proof of my fear. Thank you, Allie, for being so brave to share your story out loud. I too have felt many of the same emotions in my own situation. A big thank you to you both, Brannon and Tyler, for the knowledge you share in your podcast. So,
awesome review.
I like that
not
review.
Not only Allie, but all of our callers. We love having our callers on because that's what makes the show so rich.
I love when people who review shout out to our callers, because it just like our guest today, it takes a lot of courage and vulnerability to come on, to open up, share your story. And so just to know that you helped somebody out there means a lot, I think, to the people that come on. So thank you for mentioning Allie specifically and giving her a thank you.
Yeah, that was awesome. How are things in your world, Brannon?
They're good. They're good. I had a great weekend. Went up to Lava Hot Springs and just with my two daughters over the weekend and just sat in the hot pots for a day, and it was excellent.
That's awesome. That's a great place.
Yeah, I'm feeling relaxed and ready to go. So yeah, what about you? How are things for you?
Great, man. We actually went down to meet the parents of my daughter's boyfriend. Yeah.
Tell me when I need to take some time off of work, because there might be some things happening here.
I don't know what's going forward, but they were kind enough to let us go down. They live in Las Vegas, and they took us to. It was actually kind of a bucket list thing for me. You know how much I love the UFC. It was Nate Diaz's last fight in the UFC. Not that that means anything to you, but
no, I know who that is.
They actually they actually took us to the fights, and like we had a great time. We had a really good time and kind of
nice
off another thing. Off
yeah, that's
so,
huge for you. You do love that. So that's awesome.
Yeah,
wow.
awesome.
They're impressing you, huh?
Great weekend,
they're trying hard.
I know that's the problem
Excellent.
is now we're already in debt to them and we haven't even started a real relationship yet. So
yeah, well,
but it's awesome.
That's exciting. That's
so
great. All right, Adam, welcome to the show. Good to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having the courage to come on. And if you could just give us a little bit of background, give us some context to what's going on with you, and then ask any questions you have.
No, I appreciate that, Brandon. So, my journey started early on, as many, when I was a teenager, young teenager, having been exposed to pornography by accident, like most people. Just riding a bike when I was young. So, and just happened to come up on a magazine just laying on the ground. So that was my first introduction to it. And then from there, as a teenager, before the internet times, anyways, it was kind of my teenage years. So there was there was a lot more getting into masturbation. Just looking at whatever images could get things to that place that were tempting, or magazines, whatever. So it wasn't actual seeking out videos or pornography, although some of that stuff did happen around the people that I hung out with in high school and all of that. So for me, at this point in my life, I've identified that certainly as a teenager, I developed a view of myself, that I had to be someone, amazing to everybody around me. That comes from being in a big family to being a part of the church, and certainly not wanting to make those mistakes or being seen for making those types of mistakes. So, I hid a lot. Made sure that the view that people saw of me was what I wanted them to see. And so it kind of put me in this place where, I, being a part of a family with lots of boys, we just weren't a very, openly loving type of family. I love my brothers, could reach out to them anytime for help, but we just didn't, talk about deep things or, that type of stuff, growing up. So and then also trying to live up to not their expectations, my expectations that I had to be good enough. Had some brothers who were fairly successful in sports and, in the church. And for me, I was kind of not a misfit, but I messed up quite a bit. I was arrested a few times as a teenager, caused certainly a lot of heartache for my parents. And so again, that put me into a shame cycle, of not being able to be good enough. So apologize for the emotions.
It's okay. It's fine.
It's okay.
It has taken me a long time to get to these views of myself, but So as life went along, certainly, I served a mission. Was a great experience. By that time I had come out to my parents about, my involvement in some pornography before I left, and the mission was a great experience for me. Was a time of, I would guess you could say, reprieve, where I felt free, and so then got home from my mission, and then about a year and a half later met my wife. We were married fairly quickly. Just that's a whole other story. But within months, which is not it's not uncommon for people in Utah. That's where we both are from. Are in Utah. So our journey started there. Soon into the marriage, I within the first year, she discovered pornography on the computer, and so from there, it's been really just a discovery for her. I had never reached out or brought her in. To really who I was. So that's just kind of how our marriage has kind of gone for, we've been married now 23 years. So I lived in a shame cycle during that time period, the same one that I would live in as a teenager, just not wanting to open up. Not wanting people to let people in. So, with that, got into a place, several years down the road where I was starting to attend programs, the church's programs. Mm-hmm. Didn't, went to those a few times, didn't really connect with that process all that well. Although I thought it was good to get involved in something at that point. So around this time, and you're going to have to excuse.
It's okay, man. It's all right. When you say around this time, how long are we talking? Or how long ago now to where we're at?
It's 5 years ago.
5 years ago. Okay.
Our oldest son, shot himself.
How old was he?
He was 14.
Wow.
And so, at first, a lot of questions filed around whether it was intentional or not. although it was categorized as that by the medical examiner, there really is no evidence that he was going through anything from friends, messages, just everybody. So it's for me perspective, for personally about his passing and being where he needs to be next. I'm okay with that. I've come to a place where that's what needed to happen. So for me, it has been, I was the one that found him. And I was told to be the one that was last to be with him as well. Before that happened. So for a long time after, I couldn't really even think about him without being, brought back to that moment.
Yes.
And I promise I'll get past the crying part of all this. But he eventually did, about 3 years in, went on a hike with a group of men and took my other son. And it was the first moment that I could actually think about my son at that time and, hear his smile or hear his laugh and see his smile. So that did eventually come. So it's not as difficult to think on him. But what happened before that in the 3 years, was me losing a lot of connection with God. I mean, essentially with myself. With my wife, and went from a place to not really understanding what my place was anymore. Just in life and with God. Was in this place where I really didn't believe that I would be happy again or feel joy. And so that trying to deal with those emotions sent me into a deeper place with my addiction at that point. It had been mostly pornography and masturbation to that point. But after that, I started to get on chats and apps and taking it to that level, and picture exchanging and then that was discovered, in the first few years, but I still just didn't learn to open up even then. So, I started joining other groups, getting sponsors, and trying to work on myself and my recovery once that was exposed. and have been kind of going in that journey. There has been improvements, but there's still the relapses that happen. Some with pornography, some with masturbation, still some of the chatting, which ultimately had led to being, attempted extortion a couple times.
Mm.
So,
Yeah.
and so, honestly, that's where we're at right now.
Okay. How's your marriage right now?
It's not good.
Mm.
So that's the disconnection. So it sounds like it's been 5 years since your son's incident. Since then, the addiction has amped itself up. There's been a deeper disconnection in your relationship with your wife. There's been a wrestle with God. It sounds like that's still an active thing right now, where you find yourself sort of sitting on the outs of connection with your own heart, with God, with your wife, and going, geez, I don't know how to figure this stuff out because of all the emotional stuff that's rolling through me. Is that basically what you're saying, Adam?
Absolutely. It's put me in a place now where, divorce is a real thing right now. Mm-hmm. And I'm seeking out help from a counselor, groups, obviously listen to podcasts on, and trying to reconnect with God. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you hold a lot of guilt about what happened to your son? Do you blame yourself?
I do not. I don't blame myself for what happened. Because I know and had been given impressions that it was an accident. That is what needed to be. And even, from a spiritual standpoint, that is what was agreed upon beforehand. So I have been given that piece. Now, the guilt still does come up from being with him, deciding to go work out when he was home, alone. There was talk about access. The gun was in a safe. Didn't really realize that he knew the combination. Some of those things. So it's more of that. I did guilt myself a lot at the beginning, I guess, with when he. Because he was still breathing when I found him, and so in the hospital when he was on the ventilators, and then we decided that we had to take him off. I like my wife, she left the room, but I stayed, and it was more of a guilt thing, I guess. I don't want to leave you. I left you once. I'm not going to do it again in the end. So a little bit of that I still, revisit.
Yeah.
Adam, I'm not even going to pretend to understand all of the feelings and emotions that you and your wife, your family has to have been through over the last several years. I can only imagine what that process has been like, man. I just want you to know that I don't even know you other than the last half hour, but my heart just is so full you and for the things that you've experienced. And I'm glad that you're here. And I know that there is going to be a process to this thing, and hopefully our discussion today will be some part of that process for you.
Yeah.
So
I Adam, I just want to cry with you. Like I'm just holding back the tears myself, and I have a 14-year-old, and I can't imagine. And so, I don't know why that something like that would happen, but I don't understand it. But I do want to get into some of the things that you're going through right now, and talk about recovery, because to me it sounds like you're not finding real recovery. It sounds like you're finding some good things that are helping you a little bit, or maybe a lot. But I want to talk about what to actually address and how to actually find some freedom and some peace, and if possible, mend some relationships, and not keep going through these same cycles again and again and again and again in your life. Does that sound good to you? Does that sound okay?
Absolutely. When you say, I've been trying to figure it out, it's, there's lots of advice you get from a lot of different people you start to reach out to. And so again, it is trying to figure out what works for you in recovery. Mm-hmm. And be honestly, don't feel like I've arrived there yet.
Right. What number are you in your family?
7.
You're 7 of how many?
10.
7 to 10. Wow.
Yeah. 8 boys.
8 boys,
wow.
And you're 7 of 8. So I'll just say this: there is trauma and father wounds baked into that scenario. Do you understand that?
Well, from a father's wounds, I don't. I mean, from a competitive standpoint and trying to live up to, what I viewed my older brothers as, great, from a spiritual standpoint, athletic standpoint, achieving, good things. Yeah.
So when I say trauma and father wounds baked in, I'm not saying that your dad's done anything wrong or that he's a bad dad or anything like that, right? But your dad had 8 boys. Your dad's job, masculinity bestows masculinity. Well, he had only so much time and energy in his life to give. And there you were, 7 of 8 boys. My guess is that you were trying to find your worth and just trying to figure out your place in that family. And in some ways you experienced some neglect at no fault of your father's, other than he had a lot of kids, right? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
And you end up getting arrested, yet this dichotomy of you're getting arrested and at the same time trying to look good and be the perfect son who's good. You see that shame machine that's being created there?
Yep. Which
leads to a life of attachment problems and mm-hmm. secrecy and disconnection, right? So Tyler, did you want to add anything here?
No. Yeah. No, I think I'll probably take it away from where you're headed with this. So if you have another thought to go with it, I'll come back around. But otherwise, I can't.
Okay, I'm gonna keep going here. So, and Tyler, I think we'll probably get to where you're wanting to go here. I believe that God is fighting for your heart, and so you're born with this nobility of who you are, just with unconditional love and like amazing who you are, yet you have life experiences. You're born into the family, you're born into a great family, you have the church, you have these things going on, but you have life experiences that actually are traumatic in some ways and start to muddy the waters about you seeing who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Absolutely.
And you throw in the confusion around sexuality and the shame that causes, and it starts to make you feel like I'm just kind of a bad and not okay as I am. Go on your mission, you feel okay as you are. Get married and start hiding your sexuality again, and I'm not okay as I am. I'm broken. There's something wrong with me. I'm not lovable as I am. This horrific trauma happening in your life that can lead you down two paths. It can lead you toward God. You could look at it and saying, God is trying to find me, and I'm having this experience for some kind of a reason. Or it can lead you further down the path of God is punishing me because I'm bad. I deserved this. You can go both directions with it, right? And it sounds like you're not doing that. You're not blaming yourself, which I'm glad to hear that. But
it was
any thoughts?
Well, on that thought, it's interesting. You can head down the one road, and it's almost like you jump back to the other one intermittently in between.
Absolutely.
Right.
So, at first, it was more me trying to understand what my relationship with God was now. Like I had put value in, being a father, protector, provider, as really my identity. And again, that's me saying, look, I'm a good person. Like I'm doing the good things. So when my son's death happened, it then became, well, who am I? I don't know who I am anymore. I don't know who God wants me to be anymore. And so it went into, for the 3 years, a complete shutdown. I still went through the motions and went to church, and my wife's been amazing. We started a foundation in his name, and all these other things, which she has been able to use in her recovery and grief from the situation. I didn't use it as much. I just got lost in trying to figure out what it is. What am I supposed to be now?
You don't know that answer. Who are you?
I still don't know.
Yeah. That's part of the wrestle that you're facing right now with God. And as a result, sounds like it's pushing itself into other parts of life, your relationships with, obviously yourself and with your wife and probably other people as well. It's right back to what Brannon was talking about with these attachment patterns that had been established earlier on in life. It's crazy how it can be its own trap. And yet there's a couple of things that I think are out in front of us now. And part of you being here on the show is actually part of this process. The poet Rumi says that the wound is where the light enters. And where Brannon, I think, was going with this, and this idea of the who am I question to God, I would wonder if there's a different way to look at that. And I don't know this is the right way, but just a different way is you defined yourself to God by being a good father, by being this, by being that. What about, instead of defining yourself to God, what about being broken enough to do nothing, to have to do nothing to receive an answer of who I am? And then to act accordingly once you receive the answer. And maybe potentially as a result of the hell that you've been through in your life, that's the root of where some of the answers are. Who am I? Am I the kid who had to perform? Am I still the man who has to perform? Or can I just be an honest, humble, broken man who's still at the end of the day is worthy of love, who still has immense propensity for good, all of these other things. But I have to be, John Eldredge talks about this in his book, Wild at Heart. I don't know if you've read that or not, but he says that where we're wounded is where God will pursue our hearts until we're broken enough to give ourselves to him. And maybe there's something to look at there in terms of where is my woundedness and how could that lead me to giving myself more fully to something or somebody bigger than myself? Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. And I have I've made excuses to be resistant to the idea, because also during that time period, it wasn't just I don't want anything to do with God. It was it leaned towards hatred.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Mm-hmm.
That would seem natural.
You felt forsaken.
It's interesting you brought that up. A lesson in Elders Quorum brought up that same concept. Well, to me, what I was saying, it was a lesson about something else, but it was that part of Elder Holland had made a statement that you'll never be forsaken. And I was immediately taken to the moment that Christ was on the cross. And he made that statement. He asked that question.
Why hast thou forsaken me?
And for me, it was, I've put myself in that place so much of why have you forsaken me? Where are you? I'm not getting the guidance that I need or the strength. And so at that moment, a few weeks ago, realized that was one other thing that Christ had to experience in order for him to be there for me.
Wow.
Tyler plays this song called I Wish You Pain at some of our retreats. This might deter people from coming to our
We're gonna scare them off, Brannon.
But I was playing it for my kids this week, and you think about it, it's like I was playing it for my kids, like, hey, I wish you pain, and in that song it talks about like just feeling completely hopeless and abandoned and things like that, and I want my kids to go through some of that stuff. And it sucks. Like, it breaks my heart to think of them going through some of that stuff. But I love them and I want them to be strong and I want them to grow. I have a question for you, Adam.
Uh-huh.
Your son, who was he or who is he to you? Like, how do you feel about him?
He was at the time of his passing, at his funeral, I described him as one of a kind. He had the ability to bring people of all ages to him, adults, kids, teenagers his age. Like, he just had this emotional intelligence that was pretty amazing. And that was proven out after he passed. People just started sending, more came to my wife, but letters, just wrote letters and text messages and emails. I mean, we have a book full of hundreds and hundreds of letters from things that he did or said that impacted people.
As his father, I mean, you probably can't even describe this, but your love for him, like, how did you feel toward him?
Oh, I mean, he was my oldest son. I loved him like no other. And was so proud to be his father.
That feeling, I mean, that feeling of love Did he need to be perfect for you to feel that way about him?
Absolutely not.
Did he need to be non-sexual? Did he need to be, exactly the way that you thought he should be for you to love him?
No.
So, do you see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
Why doesn't this apply from God toward you? Why doesn't God feel that way about you, the way that you feel about your son?
He does.
Do you believe that?
Honestly, some days I fight it, but I believe it. I believe it more than I did in the past.
Does God believe you're one of a kind?
Absolutely.
That you're special, that you are a magnificent, that you are his son. Right?
Absolutely.
And even after the chatting online, after the pornography, the masturbation, the letting people down, the lying, does God still feel that way about you?
He does.
I feel like you know that here, Adam, and I'm pointing to my head.
Mm-hmm.
You know that here in your heart.
And what would it take to get there?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the problems I deal with is, obviously the addiction offers relief right away to what I'm struggling with, whereas answers the other way take time, take effort. And so I've found myself fighting off the need to have it now.
Yeah.
Have that answer now, have that guidance now, like I would, seek out, the validation or, the release from acting out. Because I had control. I could do it whenever I wanted to, whenever I needed it, and I got that relief that I was seeking. This one's seeking God out in my heart fully has been hard.
Yes.
Well, I would say it's not about seeking God out. It's about allowing space for God. And there's a difference there. It's about surrender. Yeah. It's step 3, turn your will and your life over to the care of God. Go ahead,
share
Tyler.
A couple of things,
yes.
Brannon, just that are coming through me. Again, man, I just got to tell you, my heart is so full of love towards you. And I'm so grateful that you're here today. But, Brannon was asking those questions about your son. He said he was one of a kind. And I think that's how all of us think that God sees us, at least in our heads. You couldn't stop the bad thing from happening from your son. You couldn't prevent him from being imperfect, but you could definitely see all the goodness in him, and you loved him no matter what. And that's, in some sense, your chance of emulating the likeness of God. And you get to do that. And now, because you can do that, maybe there's a way to accept that from God without having to go and do anything else. The other thing that is running through my mind, you were using, the analogy, the story of Christ when he asked God why he had forsaken him. And earlier, in the doctrine of Christianity, even before he was on the cross, there was another time when he may have felt forsaken in the garden. Mm-hmm. When he was going through the atonement. He said, Father, please take this cup from me, right? He felt alone still. He was performing the task he had been sent to do alone. But I think he also demonstrated a key principle in the work of recovery and the work of reclaiming our hearts. And this is where Brannon's going, is after he said those things, what were the next words? Not my will, but thine be done. Nevertheless, not my will, but thine be done. He was in a place of demonstrating, and I don't mean to sound like I'm preaching because I'm not, but principally speaking, he was demonstrating the principle of surrender. Mm-hmm. He was willing to say, God, I don't know where you're at. I don't know what you're doing, but I know that whatever your purpose is good for me, and I will do whatever it takes. He didn't go and say, oh, I better hurry and do something better. Or why am I not worthy? Or why am I not good enough? He said, I'm struggling. I'm suffering, but not my will, but thine. I'm still connected to you and I'm willing to be. And that's a principle that when we look at our lives in recovery, this is where Brannon and I always get into, we talk a lot about this and things at our retreats, like the things like this, is that sometimes the answer is not to do more. The answer is to let go and surrender more. And it's like this weird paradox, but that's what I'm hearing in you is you've been locked up your whole life. Do more, more meetings, more groups, more books, more performance,
prove myself,
more put on my happy face. Dude, like, yeah, you still are going to end up doing those things, but you'll do all those things from a heart that desires to, once you let go of it all and allow that space that Brannon's talking about to be filled in with love. I don't know if you felt it today, Adam, but through the screen, through the phone, there's love. I feel it. I can feel it towards you. I can feel it towards Brannon. It's like, it's all encompassing. It's right here being ready to be accepted. It's having the heart to let go in order to let it come in that matters.
Yeah, I get that. That's a big struggle for me. I've never thought of myself as a controlling person, but that's what I want to do.
Every time
control every aspect.
Adam, every time you've manipulated or lied or omitted to your wife, you're controlling.
Right. Yep.
Every time you're trying to get somebody to see you a certain way and you're posing, you're controlling.
Mm-hmm.
And God is requiring your healing to go deep. I mean, with what you've been through, for some reason, like your pain, your wound, your healing needs to go deep. But the only way you get deeper and deeper and deeper is letting down all those protective measures, like Tyler's saying, getting that ego out of the way and opening up your arms and saying, hey, God, like, I'm going to be rigorously honest now. I'm going to be vulnerable. I'm going to feel what I feel. I'm going to cry. I'm going to just like be me, and God, take it. Where this lands me, I don't know. But take it, because that's the way that I actually understand all of this stuff. I start to understand why. But you'll never get to that place of knowing who you really are unless you can just layer upon layer, surrender, and practice that faith.
Yeah. I have never, I've surrendered from time to time, but never fully, and even last night, was in just a lot of pain.
Yeah.
And the only thing I could do was just say, I can't do it anymore.
Yeah. Yep. I would say that was a step in the right direction, Adam. Have you ever seen the movie Life of Pi?
I have, yeah. It's a great movie.
Okay, yeah. So you know the premise. He gets stuck on a boat with a tiger. I mean, that's as much as we need to know for the movie, but I'd recommend it to everyone else for this principle. He's out in the ocean and a storm comes up and he's on a handmade raft. And what happens in that moment? He's been cursing God. He's been cursing God. He's basically going to die. He's going to drown. And in that moment, he reaches up to the sky and he says, basically, I give myself to you. Do with you what you want with me. Right. And it's like this pivotal moment in the movie where he finally like learns to just give over the outcome, to give over needing to try to control and fix everything. That he's floating on a raft in the ocean. He has no control at all. And he finally understands that, and he has to give himself to something bigger. And it sounds like you had a moment like that last night. And it sounds like you're going to have many more opportunities to continue to wrestle with that. but I'm convinced that principle, regardless of how it shakes out, leads to freedom, because it's going to allow space in your heart to feel something new. Eventually, it's going to allow you to start to see the experiences that you've been through with a fresh set of eyes that might provide some type of hope or plan for moving forward, or even, and I believe this is actually absolutely true because of what I've experienced in my own life, it'll also start to provide some of the answers of that question, who am I? And when you find those answers born from the place of hell that you've been through, there will be a conviction, there will be a surety, and there'll be a confidence that goes with that. And it will shape you as the man that you're becoming.
I've never seen anybody think that themselves into an answer of who am I? Well, let me think about this and also like try to manipulate people to see me a certain way so then I know who I am. I've never seen that. The only way that I see it is through experience, and that experience happens through surrender.
Yeah, and often
right?
the brokenness.
Yeah.
That's what it comes through.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Adam, we're just about out of time here. I don't know if we've addressed your question or not. Any last thoughts today?
No, absolutely. You addressed it. I think what I realized from our conversation is I came into this thinking that the last several months that I've been doing a good job of surrendering, and I haven't.
Mm-mm.
It's been still controlled, and and I limit it to just pieces. If I do surrender, and so the biggest thing that I'm taking from our conversation is because the honesty has been the worst part for my wife.
Yeah.
And I can't be that until I learn to surrender honestly. All the time.
It's facing that demon that says to you that you can't be seen as broken. And it's surrendering to saying, you know what, I surrender that over. I'm going to let people see me as broken. And I'm just going to be honest. I'm going to be open. Tyler, I want to make just a couple more comments really quick. We just did ART training, accelerated resolution therapy. We've also done a lot of EMDR. These trauma modalities of treatment, they don't work unless somebody is willing to what, Tyler?
Basically allow themselves to go through the process. It's about moving through.
Surrendering.
But they're highly effective if you surrender to the process. And
yep.
Right when we started talking, my first thought was, Adam, you would be a prime candidate for something like ART. I think it would be really helpful but
you got to be willing to surrender.
To allow yourself to go through and process some of these things in a much different way.
Tyler, we were just talking about a certain experiential we do at our retreat, and it doesn't really work that well unless what?
You fully surrender.
You fully give in to it, the process, and let go.
We tell every guy that shows up to those events, we tell them right off the bat, this will be as good as you want to allow yourself to make it, because it'll either suck because you're going to judge it, not want to do anything the whole time, or you can dive right in and have your life change and
have a shift in your heart.
It's about that surrender. Yeah.
So, Adam,
I know I'm in a place where I want to fully surrender.
I can feel it in your heart, man. Like you're right at that place. Like I call it being broken in a good way. You are so broken, but in such a good way right now that I would not want to try to callous that over or have you pick up your feelings and not show them anymore. Like, let that brokenness work in you. That's humility. It's moving you towards a place where you're going to come to some answers. It might be a little dark for a while, but you're going to find some answers there.
Tyler, is Rising Sun completely full or
actually
could we squeeze Adam in? We got to get him up.
Brannon,
here.
Today, like I was just going to ask you, Brannon, we just had a cancellation. So Adam, I know it's way short notice, but if you could get your airfare.
It's the end of September, is it right?
It's September
It's in 2 weeks.
22nd.
2 weeks from Thursday.
It's basically 2 weeks away. In fact, this episode probably will launch after it happens, but we would love to have you come as our guest if you can figure out a way to get here.
Well, I mean, a few weeks ago after relapse, I drove the 27 hours from Texas to Utah to be just with my parents.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't show up telling them why I was there. I just went to a place where I knew I'd be loved.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Well, so anyways, if I have to jump in a car and drive 27 hours, I would do that.
We'd love to have you.
We'd love to have you come as our guest if you can find a way to get here. All right, man. It's right down the alley of exactly where you're at right now in your own journey. So
yeah, and I can get there. So
and ask your buddy about it.
Yeah. I actually have already, and then I hear his voice whenever you guys do your advertisements.
Yeah.
So he's a great guy. He's been a great even lifeline for me, during this process as well. So
that's awesome.
Well, thank you, Adam. Thanks for your willingness to come on. Thanks for being willing to be so real with where you're at and what's going on in your life. I know that this will touch people who are listening who are in other dark places. So thank you for your willingness to share.
My pleasure. I appreciate you, both of you.
Yep. All right, you guys, have a wonderful day. We'll see you later.